loudest scream I ever heard in my life. It was so scary. I'm going to admit it right now again. I wet myself. That's how scared I was. And then the thing decided to come after us. And it chased us, and it ran from 2 feet to 4, going down on all fours, back to 2 feet, then going back to 4s, all the way to we managed to get back to the car, and it was just off to the car, maybe 25, 30 feet. So I'm telling you, you guys got to be careful because, I mean, you know, some areas where the population doesn't go looking for Bigfoot, if you know what I mean, you might run into something you wish you might not have ran into.
You know, I mean, that's true. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories of people. They have sort of like, there's sort of two sides. There's the type of people that are like, you know, Bigfoot's he's like a big giant, you know, teddy bear up there who's a monkey who, you know, runs around and he likes to, you know, prank people and he's all friendly and he'll hand out lollipops to kids. And then there's the other side, which are like, he's a wild animal. And, you know, he will come after you like any other wild animal will, and you have to be very careful. So it's very interesting. I'm not sure which type or which brand of Bigfoot we're going to encounter. Hopefully we encounter any encounter with Bigfoot would be, I would be just blown away by. That would be awesome. But hopefully it's the nicer Bigfoot.
Well, yeah. You know, again, you know, where we were out in the middle of nowhere. So I think coming into human contact would be very rare with those. Now, going to an area where it's more populated, then, you know, maybe the Bigfoot will respond different towards humans than what we ran into. Because what we ran into, basically, like I said, it chased us all the way back to the car. And when we got back to the car, it was it or its mate or a friend or whatever was off to the car, maybe 25 feet from us, bending a tree over, screaming at the top of its lungs. I'm getting in the car. I'm starting it. My friend is not even in the car. I think he had like one leg and I already had the gas pedal going, you know, and I'm dragging him, you know, as he's trying to get in. But the thing threw a rock even at the car, and it was my wife's new car. She was nice enough to let us take it on the road trip. And I had to come back to my wife, and here's a front fender on the passenger side with a huge dent in it. And the first thing out of her mouth is, "Gary, what were you drinking or what were you smoking?" And I said, "You know, I haven't smoked anything since Vietnam, and I don't even hardly ever drink. I maybe drink 2 or 3 beers a year. I don't drink." And then she goes, "Okay, what did it?" And I said, "A Bigfoot." And she goes, Okay, what were you drinking again?" Hey, she still to this day does not believe that we ran into a Bigfoot. But my encounter was not a friendly encounter. And then, you know, Ed Romans in Canada, he's like one of the number one folk singers in Canada. I mean, you know, on the charts, everybody in Canada, you know, knows who he is. He heard my show about Bigfoots because I was had a guest on about Bigfoots that night. He wanted to be on the show, and he pretty much described the same thing. A creature, you know, about 8 foot, 9 foot in height, about 400 or 500 pounds, running on 2 legs to 4 legs, because it chased him and his dog where he was out in the deep woods.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's really interesting you bring that up. I mean, thank you for sharing that story. I mean, that is really intriguing. We were on the Clyde Lewis radio program on Friday night, and that was the topic. A lot of people are asking, so, you know, is Bigfoot friendly, or is Bigfoot, does Bigfoot have other ideas? And it was a big topic of discussion. For sure. So, you know, it's, man, I mean, that's quite an encounter. I mean, a lot of people, you know, just claim to like hear a noise off in the distance or find a track or something like that. But you had something different, huh?
Oh, yeah. And, you know, the point is, though, we weren't out on an area where people, you know, go hiking and stuff. Like I said, we were out on the middle of the Canadian Rockies, way out where, like I said, where that internment camp was for World War II prisoners. So there was nobody around, and people going there is probably very few people go there anymore. So, I mean, that was a chance encounter once in a lifetime. But you know what? I've never gone in the woods since then. I mean, not just that. What also scared me more than anything, after we left, we were really shook up, and we had to drive maybe 15 miles, and we came upon a little store gas station, and we went in there. And the guy knew that we were, like, freaked out, like you wouldn't believe, because we were. And, the first thing he said, where were you? And I said, we were at the old internment camp. And he goes, God, you guys aren't Canadian, are you? And I go, no. And he goes, well, did you at least have bear spray? And I go, bear spray? I didn't even think about it, A week before that, there was a man and his wife went out hiking a few miles from where we were at. And I guess they got attacked by bears. He survived and got out. But the time he got the authorities to come back and help his wife because she was hurt, the bears already ate half of her up. So if you guys go out in places like that, at least have somebody in your group that has, I hate to say it, if you run across a Bigfoot, a 45 caliber or a 380 or any of these type guns, they're not going to do anything. But, maybe carry bear spray at least. Not just in case you run into a Bigfoot and it's not friendly, but what happens if you run into a cougar or a bear or something?
Yeah, well, that's a really good point. I mean, I do have my K-bar, which is kind of my standard. But maybe we'll get some bear spray as well.
Well, I sure would, and I would recommend that each team has at least some bear spray. What can I say? I would really think about doing that for your own protection, because if you're going out, I don't know how deep you plan to go in the woods. How far are you guys going to be going in?
Well, that's a good question. Mike Beers is the lead of the Bigfoot group. And so, he's really well accustomed to the area and all of that. He's been apparently researching Bigfoot for 30, 40 years now. And so we're really excited to work with him. But yeah, he's got some locations where he's, been doing his research and all of that for a couple of years now. And I don't know how far into the woods it is, but, I guess we'll find out.
Oh, yeah. Well, it sounds like you guys, if anything, are going to have, an exciting time and stuff. Now, so you're out there looking for Bigfoot and UFOs and all this other stuff. Where does the UFOs come around that area?
Oh, good question. So, a lot of people think about the ESETI Ranch, the Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence, that place there with James Gilliland and those guys. So that's going to be our first stop. So we're heading there to the ranch, stay there for a couple of days, kind of touch base. We've been there before. We've met James and the crew, and we participated in the Skywatch, did all that stuff. So, that's where we're going to start the UFO investigation. And then we're splitting the UFO part into two groups. So one group is going up the mountain, and that's going to be where I'm going to be with. And so we're going to be essentially, how people report seeing like weird lights and activity that's unexplainable on the mountain.
You mean orbs and stuff like that?
Yes. So my team is going to be actually on the mountain. We're climbing the mountain. I have an ice pick right here in my living room, and we have crampons and full 10 yards. I just got outfitted last night. We have all of our gear pretty much just laying all over the floor, just getting everything prepared. And then we have another team that's going to be near Talaka Lake. Is that Talaka Lake, right? I keep getting the pronunciation backwards, but the lake on the north side of the mountain. We have a team there, and they're going to be watching the mountain as well. So we're going to get some information from them as we remain in contact. So hopefully, if there's anything seen, they can let us know so we can investigate it on the ground.
Oh, wow. So you got radios and all that equipment to communicate back and forth and all that stuff?
Well, we have simple two-way radios. We'll see what happens, But we have radios and lasers, and we're going to try to just hope that it works. We've got our night vision equipment, of course, that we're relying on to get us some footage of whatever we see at night. So that's definitely going to be a big part in the project too.
Now, guys, what happens if you run across a Bigfoot? I mean, are you prepared psychological? If you run across one, I mean, do you think it's going to come up to you and pat you on the shoulder, guys, and say, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" Or do you think it's going to be where it throws rocks at you? Or do you? That's why I'm saying, are you prepared just in case you run across something that's aggressive or not?
Well, that's a very excellent question. I haven't quite comprehended that yet. Well, I mean, I guess we sort of had an encounter that I'm not going to say with 100% certainty that it was Bigfoot, but we had a very questionable encounter up near the mountain, way up on an old logging road, and though that time, I would have to say it wasn't friendly at all. So I would have to say I'm not expecting, a cuddly children's show type character walking out of the woods and wanting hugs and chocolate. I'm expecting probably more of some rocks and tomatoes and a couple other vegetables or something, whatever grows up there.
or maybe a stump that's about like 8 feet long and about 4 feet around coming flying at you guys too.
I'm glad that Bigfoot doesn't make spears instead of rocks.
Well,
throw spears. That would not be good.
Well, I have done a lot of research on Bigfoot. I don't agree or disagree with a lot of people I've had on my show, guests talking about Bigfoot, because everybody has their own views. But till somebody actually sees one. Okay, and then if they actually really see one up close, not through the bushes and not through the haze, enough where it does a kind of a angry encounter, then you kind of get the just what they are. Now, part of my family, due to marriage through my daughter and another relative in my family, I have like Muckleshoot Indian tribe in our family and two other tribes. And I got to know like their medicine man on one, medicine woman on the one tribe where we sat and we talked about Bigfoot. Now we're going back maybe 120 years, folklore. But, they were telling me things that about Bigfoot, and they had their little villages and stuff like that, that the Bigfoot would actually come in and, grab a squaw or two or the little kids. And then they would have to go back and then try finding them. And a lot of times what they found, well, they never found them alive, but they did find bones and part of clothing. And I heard these all from these three different tribes. Two medicine men and a medicine woman told me that that Bigfoot are not friendly creatures, but they are, well, they like eating human just like we like eating steak or going to McDonald's. So I don't know that, and then when, I've had some other guests on my show that actually had encounters with Bigfoot. And that's when I can pretty much tell if somebody knows anything about Bigfoot or is jiving me about Bigfoot, because all I can go is my encounter. Okay. I knew what happened. It wasn't a friendly encounter. Ed Romans, I know what his kind of really matched the same thing. We talked a good hour before we went on air about it. Everything he was telling me, what he saw, how it acted, was pretty much the same way the one acted with me and my friend. And then I've had some other people, that, like a lady that lived way out in a cabin out in the forest in British Columbia, she had a little garden and all this stuff, and she couldn't figure out what was happening in the garden, in summertime. Stuff would start disappearing, being yanked out of the garden. And then she saw a Bigfoot. And then it got to the point where the Bigfoots started getting aggressive with her, throwing rocks on her cabin, climbing on the roof, running on her roof, all this stuff. And, Tushy kind of somewhat